Tired of being alone, I've gotta get out in the world.
Hi everyone, this is Sherry at talentisoptional.com. This is the second video in a series of homemade flowers. Today we're going to learn how to make these miniature roses. They're a knockoff of the Primaroses. I used my Cricut and I used the George cartridge, and the flower on page 120 I used the Shadow Blackout. I also used the Pagoda cartridge and I used the flower on page 56 in the Shadow. Now you can basically do this with any punches, templates, as long as you can get the petals of the flowers down small enough. Here's the things that you'll need. You'll need some scissors. You'll need an instrument that you can curve the petals of the flowers with. This is a small circumference, so it's easy on the small petals to do. I'm using a file that I have because the small end of it is small enough to cup petals around. A bamboo skewer will do the same thing. You'll need some form of adhesive, and when I'm dealing with this small of a flower, I like to use my hot glue gun. So let's get ready. Here's what you'll need. I cut two of the flowers out at 0.80 on my Cricut, and three of the flowers at 1 inch. And the leaf, the flower that I'm using for the leaf, is also done at 1 inch. When I start out, the first thing I do is I take the flower that I'm going to use for the leaf and I clip at each petal just a little to give it a little more ability to flex and bend. Then I take my paper piercer and I bend one leaf under and skip one and bend those under, and then I bend the others up. This gives some dimension to the leaf. And set it aside. Then I take and I basically curve all of my petals on my flowers under. This helps whenever you start assembling this flower together to get the little petals for the roses. Now I will tell you, I prefer to use ivory lightweight cardstock or a white cardstock, and then take my Copic markers and color the flowers to the color I want them. I also like to, in this case I'm using a lightweight scrap piece of cardstock that is just colored on one side, so I'm going to have some white mixed in with the pink when I get ready to assemble this together. That's alright. Okay, and here we go. Take the two smaller ones and you cup it around the end of the instrument that you're going to use, like for your middle. And while I have it in this form, I'll start pulling those petals back and molding this bud together. And this small one is the center of the flower. And I just play with it. I take every one of those petals and I fold them in and under, so it starts looking like this. This is the bud. And I even crimp that bottom. Then I take the next one that's also small and I do it the same way. I start crimping those petals back, getting it ready. And now I take my hot glue, put some in the center. I stick what was my bud into that center and I start molding it again, mashing it all together, crimping it, squishing it down, and making it look like the center of the rose. Now can you see that? Now I'm starting on the outer layers, and it is basically the same thing. I cup the center, get it molded. I put the hot glue right inside. This is why I like the hot glue, is because it dries fast, and also once I mold it, it stays in place. Bend those back again, because this is a miniature rose. Remember, we're not looking for a big flower, we're looking for a miniature rose. And I just keep playing with it. I'll even take my paper piercer and make sure that I roast some of those petals back down into that center if I need to. It's not cooperating very well. Alright, do it again. You can see these will go fairly fast. You'll get a rhythm down into making them. And before you know it, you will have your little miniature rose. Same technique, bend those petals back and in, down and under. I can take this and just roll that back into that leaf. Okay. And when you're manipulating this paper, a lot of times it'll get to feeling soft, but that's alright too. You can just keep going with it. And here we go on the last one. We're almost done. Oh, sorry. Little cobweb of the hot glue. And the same thing. Last row going in, bending it under, squashing it, and I will just take and mash that really good to get it all in there. You do the same thing to the leaves. Mold it. Shoot the adhesive in there. And you can see I'm not being overly careful with the hot glue because I want it to keep those buds of flowers down in there. And then I just mold that right up there around it, against it. Let those leaves pop up, pop down. It doesn't matter because that's what makes it look realistic. When you have something that is small and cylinder like this paper piercer, you can get it to work those little petals right to where you want them. Now look, we're done. How cute is that? You can add some stickles. You can do some glimmer mist. There's a lot of things you can do, but best of all, you can now make your own little miniature roses. Thanks for stopping by.
Tired of being alone.